Hi, I'm Leigh-Chantelle from viva.net, and today I'm here with Nick Cooney from the Humane League, as you can see on your lovely green shirt, and he's also just released a book. What's the book called?
The book's called Change of Heart, What Psychology Can Teach Us About Spreading Social Change.
Cool, and so tell me more about the book.
Sure. Well, Change of Heart was basically written to make animal activists more effective in persuading members of the public to make all the compassionate choices that we want them to make, whether it's to go vegan, to boycott fur, to adopt instead of buying a companion animal and things like that.
Because I think that's the key, isn't it, to be effective. So there's so many different things that so many people want to do and so many outlets or so many ways we can do things, but what is the most effective way to do things? What's your opinion on what's most effective?
Right, well what the book talks about is how by understanding people's psychology we can be more effective at persuading them to make these really important changes. So really whatever campaign you're working on, whatever approach you're using, by incorporating some of the lessons from the book, you can be more effective in that work and get more people to make those changes.
Cool, and so give us some examples.
Sure. So the book talks about some of the tools that we as animal activists have to be more effective. One example would be social norms. So basically, that's saying what other people are doing. And that's really powerful. In fact, a lot of studies have found that using a social norms message where we talk about what other people are doing is more influential than even using a cause-based message. So for example, we may be more effective at getting someone to try vegetarian eating by saying that Oprah, this prominent person, is eating vegan right now, than by saying, you know, pigs are confined in crates so small they can barely turn around.
Because it's a bit abstract, isn't it? Like the crate thing, people don't really get that, but they know Oprah.
Exactly. I mean, we have to talk about the suffering as well, but when we pull in either prominent celebrities or we mention that, say, 85% of Americans think that factory farming, you know, should be outlawed, that's really helpful.
What are some really great ways that you think? I know you do leafleting yourself, so how's your approach with leafleting? Has it changed since you've done your book and done all the studies?
Yeah, my approach and our approach at the Humane League, it's changed a little bit. We've definitely made some improvements as a result of it. I mean, some things that I either learned or just were reminded about how important they are while leafleting. Things like definitely never trying to guilt someone, never saying, you are responsible for this. You know, making clear that they can help the animals by making a change in their diet, but not saying you are causing these animals to suffer, you need to change. Also, for example, not trying to really pressure people into doing something. No one wants to be pressured into doing something. They all want to feel that they're making an independent choice. So even though we obviously want them to make these changes, we'll be more effective at getting them to change by basically presenting them the information, talking about how it's in line with what they already believe, because I'm sure they already care about animals, and then giving them the resources into how to make this change if they want to go ahead and do it. The research would suggest that those approaches are going to make us more effective when we're doing outreach and talking to people about these issues. Cool.
And so tell me more about the Humane League. What do you do?
Sure. So the Humane League online at thehumaneleague.com is a farm animal protection organization. Our main office is in Philadelphia, which is where I'm located, but we also have offices in Boston and Maryland, and we'll be opening a New York office later this year. So we do a lot of veg outreach in different forms, from leafleting to advertising to veg starter kit distribution to other things. We also work on campaigns at colleges and universities, getting them to go cage-free in terms of their egg purchases. And we also do humane education, where we go into high schools and colleges and talk to the students about factory farming, about veg eating, and things like that. So it's kind of what we do.
Cool, that's great. And you say veg eating. Does that mean vegan or vegetarian, or what do you?
Good question. Yeah, good question. So I've been vegan for 12 years, and obviously we want everyone to go vegan. But the reason I say veg eating is because one of the things that I learned from the book is that even though our goal is to get people to go vegan, I certainly think from my experience and also from the research that we'll help more animals and ultimately make more vegans by, when talking to the general public, usually, not always, but more often using the term vegetarian instead of vegan. I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that vegetarian seems easier to do than vegan, and it is a little bit easier. And so people are more likely to accept the ideas because we're not asking them to do quite as much. Another reason is that once people go vegetarian, they'll of course become more likely to go vegan than a typical meat eater would be to go vegan. And lastly, someone who goes vegetarian, is already sparing about 96%, 97% of the animals that the average American consumes. So getting someone to go vegetarian is 95% of the battle, and then once they make that change, then we can show them why vegan is important, and the right thing to do.
Definitely vegetarianism is a great first step to veganism. And so how would you do it? Someone's vegan, someone's vegetarian, they've been vegetarian for years. Why aren't they making that jump? Because I know that's one of my issues with a lot of people that have all the information in front of them and they don't make that step. What do you say to a vegetarian to become vegan?
Sure.
How do you follow that up, I guess?
Yeah, so just as most meat eaters are never going to go on to become vegetarian or vegan, also a lot of vegetarians are probably not going to ever go on to become vegan, and at least they're doing something. But for trying to get as many as we can to go on to become vegan, kind of doing the same things that we would use to get someone to go vegetarian. So pointing out how veganism is in line with what they already believe. They already don't want animals to suffer, and so once we can tell them that, hey, unfortunately animals suffer tremendously on dairy farms and egg farms. So
and
if you want to,
longer too.
and a lot longer, and in some very intensive conditions when we're talking about eggs. So pointing out how it's in line with what they already believe. Also making clear to them that it's very easy. So giving them, instead of just telling them why, we always need to tell people how they can make the switch.
Exactly.
That's really important. So tell them about the great dairy-free products that are out there, help them, give them some egg-free recipes, and kind of hold their hand in answering that how question. Those are, I think, probably the two most important things to do to get those vegetarians to go vegan.
Cool. Great tips. And so you said you've been vegan for 12 years. Tell me why you became vegan in the first place.
Yeah, so I became, when I was 18 and about to enter college, I learned about animal testing and some other animal issues, and so I read Animal Liberation by Peter Singer, and that's the first I'd ever heard about any of these issues. So I went vegetarian, and then a few months later went vegan when I found out, again, even when I went vegetarian, I had no idea about the suffering on dairy farms and egg farms, and so a few months later when I found that out from friends, I went vegan, and so I've been vegan since.
Yeah, same. It took me 2 years because I didn't know, but yeah, the same sort of thing. I knew I was against the animal cruelty. I was in it for moral and ethical reasons, and then when I realised being a vegetarian, I'm contributing to a massive abuse for these animals. It was just something I didn't want to deal with. So yeah, I became vegan like that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what are your plans after this book? You've launched the book last year.
Last
year in 2010. And so do you have another book planned, or what are you working on?
No, right now, I mean, my main work has always been work with the Humane League. So that definitely takes up the majority of my time. But book-wise, the book just launched about 7 months ago in December of 2010. So definitely still doing a lot of promotions for it. So after the conference is over, I'm doing a West Coast book tour to a lot of cities and a lot of animal protection groups out here. And going to continue to do more speaking events. I speak to a lot of college groups about it, some community animal groups. That's a
great place to start, isn't it? Colleges, I think.
Absolutely.
They're so willing to open and learn, and
Absolutely. I mean, we have work cut out for us so much as animal activists. So we really need to go for that low-hanging fruit. So almost all the work that the Humane League does, we're focused on high school or college students because they are the easiest to convert and easiest to make those changes.
Definitely. And so I saw a talk you were giving with Carol Glasser, and you were talking about how there's all this information that's available out there for people, and it's utilising that information, and that's what you've done with your book. Can you explain the process with that?
Sure, yeah. So to explain the book a little more, basically what I wanted to do was go through all the academic research that had been done, the scientific studies in fields like psychology, sociology, communication studies, and some other related fields. And basically, a lot of these studies are boring, they're dry, they're not about animal advocacy specifically, but go through all those studies and distill from them the lessons that we as activists can learn to be more effective.
Exactly.
It's just the process of reading a lot of books and a ton of academic journal articles, and then culling from that again the lessons that we can use, and translating into a book that is easily readable, that has clear advice for activists. For example, just to throw out a few examples, is using graphic imagery versus pleasant, happy imagery. Which of those is more effective? Or getting people to say sign a commitment, like a written veg pledge. Is that actually helpful? And lots of other questions along those lines. And why do so many people who care about animals and love their cats and dogs, why is it so hard to get them to go vegetarian? So the book, basically, I wanted to try to find the scientific answers to all these questions, as opposed to everybody has their own opinion, so many competing opinions. So I wanted to see what do the facts say, what do the research say about how we can be more effective at getting people to make these changes.
And you were also saying at your talk, which I found really interesting, because I do a lot for environmental. I have a not-for-profit environmental group, and you were saying that when there was a study done about the environmental groups and what were the things that people thought would be the most important to people when they're trying to get the message out. And I just thought money automatically. Right. And what was it? It wasn't money.
Right, and in this one study, it was a study to see what messages would get people to conserve energy in their homes the most. And they found that using a social norms message, basically saying most people in your town are already conserving energy, was far more effective than appealing to people's financial self-interest, appealing to their concern for the environment or anything else.
So yeah, that's just my beliefs of what I thought other people would see. So the book would be great to see how other people would look at different things in a different way. So you should check out Change Your Heart. What's the website?
Yep. It's online at www.changeofheartbook.com. You can read lots of free excerpts, you can see some of the comments about it, and you can order a copy if you'd like.
And I'm sure you've seen the cover. It's got a brain on the front, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has a little head with a sprout coming out of it.
Okay.
This idea of awareness sprouting in someone's head.
It's a great idea. Thank you very much, Nick.
Hey, thank you. Thanks so much for watching.
No problem. And see vivalavegan.net for more interviews with inspiring vegans.